Hi, I'm Paul Seal from codechair.co.uk. Welcome to part 2 of this mini-series. We're creating this Giphy property editor, and we're creating it as a package so you can release it eventually on the future parts of this series. We'll be releasing it to our Umbraco. So if we go to our.umbraco.com and packages, we'll release it on here, and also we'll release it on NuGet.org as well. So that's where it's going to go. Also, I'll be showing you setting it up in AppVeyor to do the builds for NuGet, but these sort of things are separate pieces and you don't have to go all the way to do all of these. You can take what you want from this mini series, but that's what I'm going to be covering. But in this one today, we're going to take where we got to yesterday with the solution. So my property editor, we just got it set up and in source control. So this is it in GitHub. So we're going to take this and we're going to make it actually start to do something, and show you how you can work with it and get it to build and things like that, and so you can work quickly on adding features to your package. So let's get started then. So first thing I need to do is I need to set up the folder structure and file structure within the My Property Editor class library. So this is, as I was saying yesterday, the My Property Editor class library here is where the code's going to go for the actual package, and this web one here is just really for the testing it out. So you've got somewhere to work with. So let's just fire up the website. So do control. One thing I want to do while we're going to be working on the package, we need to make sure that we're in debug mode. So if we go to compilation and look at debug, so we've got it as false, so we want that to be true. And then I'm just going to go to the web project. I'm going to control F5, close the config file, close that. So this is going to load up the project for us, and we want to go to Umbraco, and we can just get that loaded up. So while that's doing that, we're not running in debug mode on here, we just set debug mode to debug to true. The reason for that is because of the things like the packages and the client dependency and everything like that. It will cache it and you just can't work with it if you've not got debug mode as set to true. So as I was saying before, what I need to do is I need to replicate what I've done on my package here. So if I bring this into the frame, so on this one that I'm working on that will be released, we have a app plugins folder, then we have GIF property editor, CSS, JS, and etc, etc. Now I've gone with what I've found as a good naming structure, but it might not be the best. So we're going to follow this folder structure. The main part of this is it's just showing you how to get something up and running. You can find your own best practices. You can copy from others on the internet, you know, the other good package developers, and pick up best practices from theirs. And if you do find anything that you thought, oh, you shouldn't really do it like that, or I found a better way to do that, please feel free to put it in the comments. So anyway, what we're going to do is we're going to create a folder called app plugins, and this app plugins folder will get copied over to the web project, and everything inside it will get copied over as well. And so that will go into the contents of which will go into here, a bit like what's in here with the models builder. Also, I've noticed that there's a lot of files that look like they're missing. I'm just going to click on show all files just so you can see everything. Same with this one as well, because it's a bit misleading as to what's there. So I've got app plugins, and then I want to add the other folder. So I usually name it the same as what this is. So my property editor, this will be. So that is my folder that basically contains the plugin. And then inside that I'm going to do a folder for the JavaScript, and then I'm going to do a folder for the styles, the CSS. And then in that you want to add a package manifest file. So you do add new item, and I think it's like think you can get it from general, application manifest file. This is going to put it in as XML, but I wouldn't worry about it. You could just create the file manually yourself, but package.manifest it needs to be called. And just delete all of that. Don't need it. And then we also want to add an HTML file. So I'm going to call it the same as my property editor. So if I go to new item, and then I want to look for HTML, and I'm going to call it mypropertyeditor.html. Because I'm only using one HTML file on this. If you had different things, one for editing, one for this, that and the other, some people call them index.html and then edit.html, things like that. Again, this might not be necessarily the right way, but just be aware that other people do it differently, and you pick your best way that you want. Click on add, and I don't need to worry about that at the moment. We will put the right HTML and things in there, and the other files we want. So let's just add a new item inside CSS, and we'll look for a style sheet, and I'm just going to put styles or style.css, that'll do. And then in the JavaScript one, I'm going to do one called controller. New item, I'm going to call it, actually I'm not just going to leave it as generic name as style, and I'll show you why in a moment. So if I do JavaScript, I'm going to do it like this. So I'm going to do my property editor dot controller. That's not, I want this as a JavaScript file. .js, yeah, so add. And then I'm going to rename this one to be mypropertyeditor.style.css. The reason being, if you see up here, just style.css, well, in what context is it style.css? But now I've named it, you can see easily which one it is. So when you're looking at the Umbraco ones for reference or anything like that, if you're digging around the solution, just style.css isn't very helpful. So it helps to distinguish that. So next, what we need to do is we need to set up the package manifest file to know about all of this in the context of this app. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cheat slightly. I don't know all this off the top of my head, so I got this off the documentation from our Umbraco on how to do a property editor. So this is for version 8. I think it's roughly the same. There might be something slightly different in some of these variables, but I think essentially these Angular app plugins are roughly the same on version 7 and version 8. So let's change this to be relevant to our project then. So I'm going, the alias is my property editor. The name is my property editor. The icon, so yeah, it can be a smiley. And the grouping for select editor, oh yeah, so I've grouped it in within media. And then the editor, so I just need to get the path for the view of where it was. So that my property editor, so I can actually copy full path and then go into here, and then we'll just see what it puts in. So if I just do it above, and then we'll delete the line below and paste that in. Right, that's annoying. So actually, we'll follow the same naming convention, and we'll just change it appropriately. So app plugins, my property editor, and then my property editor. I could use copy and paste, couldn't I? But I'm not. And then just delete that line below. So that's the view. And then again, if we just copy this and we put this in front of the JavaScript, oops. So then we've got CSS, and then I'm going to name that to be my property editor style. Oh. Visual Studio likes to change the indents. It's really annoying, especially on this with it being JavaScript or JSON inside a manifest file. It gets confused about it. That's why there's no nice colouring of the text. Anyway, so we've got this app plugins, my property editor, CSS, my property editor.styles, and then controller. Right, so we need to rename the controller one to be correct. So it's my property editor.controller. Right, so we've got the files in place, so let's just have another look. So this is what it's looking like, and then in here, in the HTML, we just need to put in some correct HTML. So I'll get the bare bones from this one, and then we'll build it up. I'm going to delete the contents of it, I think. And then inside it, I'm just going to do a p tag, my property editor. We're going to rename the controller. So Umbraco like to do umbraco.controllers dot and then like that. So this isn't part of Umbraco's namespace. I'm not sure what namespace we should do. I've seen my dot. Maybe we could do that. My dot property editor dot controller. I don't know. I just kept it like this. I'm just going to keep it like that. It was simple, and that I will just give the class name there as well the same. Just if I want to just target this property editor, I can do with that class. I've got these classes in here just that when I was trying to get it working last night. Let me just go back to the web. When I was trying to get this all styled and looking like the one further down here, I found that I needed to have some classes and things like that. So these classes are for this to work in this way and to be styled like this. So that's why I've got these classes on here. So in theory, if I've set up the package manifest correctly, which it looks like I have, we'll obviously spot the issues later if not. In theory, this is our very basic property editor. We don't have a controller set up for it yet. Actually, let's just put the controller in. So again, I'm just going to copy over the controller from the one that I've been working on. I'll copy the bare bones of it, and we'll just, just so we've got something to show. Let's copy this into here, and this is what I find that you can generally tend to do this with Umbraco things. It's just copy other people's examples and work with it from there. And then so let's just change that to my property editor controller. So this needs to match with what is used on the HTML. So this my property editor controller needs to be exactly the same there. So just make sure that we copy that and we put that there. Save all of these. Also up here, what we're passing in on this, so scope, HTTP and window. In the previous solution that I copied it from, we're using all of those. Actually, we don't use window, so I can get rid of window, but we will use scope a lot, and we will use HTTP for our API calls to Giphy, and we'll use so yeah, just scope and HTTP. So this is the Angular part. I'm not very good with Angular, but what I do like about Umbraco and Angular is that it's quite easy to look at someone else's example and hack it a little bit and make it work for yourself. So that's the aim here. Then the other thing to do is we need to get this over to here. So what we do is we put a bit of Xcopy in on the post build event on the web project. So if we right click on the web project and go to properties, and then we go to build events, and we're going to put something in here. So I'll get it from the solution that I made earlier, Blue Peter style. I'm just going to grab that now. Properties, copy, and then paste that over here. So let me just explain what it's doing. So I can't remember what these commands are, but I can tell you in English what it's going to do. It is going to copy everything in this folder and all the files, and then stick them in there. There you go, that's the technical explanation of this. But we just need to make sure that the naming of the folders and the projects are correct. So it's going to look in solution directory. So that's okay, solution directory. And it's going to get the project called My Property Editor, which is this. And it's going to get the app plugins folder, which is there. Let's fix that so it doesn't keep closing. So it's going to grab that, go to that folder and everything in it, and then it's going to put it in project directory, so itself, because it's running off this, in the app plugins folder, and it's going to put it all in there. So all I needed to do really was copy what I had on the other project and rename this bit to the name of that class library. The reason I'm showing you this is because it makes it really easy for you. It means you don't work on any of the files in here. Just whatever you do, don't open the file in here and then wonder why is it not changing, or why did I lose that. Just always work on this, only ever check this version of it in, ignore it on this in source control, and we'll get on great with that. So now that we have that X copy, we can test it out. So let's do build and then rebuild solution. And then if you have a look in the output, in the build output, you can see that it's copied these files over for us. So it's copied My Property Editor, HTML, Package Manifest, Styles and Controller, and they've all gone over to here. So if we go onto the web project and give it a refresh, there it is, My Property Editor, and it's gone in. So while we're at this point, what I'd like to do is just make sure that it is ignored from source control. So on Visual Studio I've got the pen icon at the bottom here. You can't see it because my head's in the way. Let me just move my head out of the way. So it's down here. Click on that and that will show you what things are going to get checked in. So put my face back on, don't want you to miss me too much. So My Property Editor, so this is the class library, this is the web project. So in the web project I just want to go in here and I want to ignore My Property Editor in the web one. In the class library, so basically the package that we're building, I want to keep that, but I don't care about the bin and debug, so I'll ignore those. But I do want to keep the app plugins folder. I don't care about .user files, so I'm going to right click and ignore this extension. That, as I told you last time, always asks you to check it in. That's the Umbraco SDF, that's the database. I just can't be bothered to fight with it, so I just keep it. My Property Editor.webcsproj, again we've got the user, so we can ignore the user file. Nope. Oh, we must have already checked that one in. I'm not worried too much about it. I could always edit the ignore file, but actually let's edit the ignore file. So we can look for where it's ignoring star.user. Oh, and it should actually update that because we're saying it for everything. So yeah, let's check this in then. So if I put a message in, so setting up initial property editor code, and then sync that and then push. So in theory if we go into the back office of Umbraco, we should actually have a property editor that we can use. So I'll show you how we can do that. So let's go to here, go to login, not login on that one, login on this one. So the convention that I use is admin@admin.com and then 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 0. That gets past the password rules when you're creating your password. So we'll go into the back office now and we will try and create a data type using this property editor. Any minute now. There we go. So we go into settings. Again, this is Umbraco version 8 that I'm doing this for, but it's not far off the same. So data types, and I'm going to create one in here. New data type, and I'm going to call it should we just call it a Giphy picker? Come on. Giphy picker. So what property editor are we going to use? Well, we're going to use my property editor. So luckily I've done something right and it's actually appeared in the list. So property editor alias is that. So these map to the values in the package manifest. So we've got alias is there and the name is there. So that's how they come through. So we're going to save that. So now we have our own data type that we can use on our document types. So if we just stick this on the home page, after this call to action link, if we add a property and we do Giphy image, choose a nice GIF, and then we do add editor. So we want to use existing because we already created it, and we want to type for it, so we'll do Giphy. So we have a Giphy picker. Click on that, and it's not mandatory, and then save. So now we can go to the content for the home page, and we should see something in there. And look what we've got. We've got my property editor, which I got an error then, it just flashed up. That was Models Builder complaining basically that it can't map this to a Models Builder class because when I added that data type I didn't do a rebuild. So let's just do a rebuild. Next time when I load the back office on the home page, it shouldn't, fingers crossed, it shouldn't give me that error. Anyway, but you see this my property editor here, we can look back at what we did in here and we can see that my property editor was in a p tag, and that's why it's doing it. But it's showing you that well, we're changing the back office now. We've done it in a separate plugin. We've not done anything inside the Umbraco folder. We don't have to do anything inside Umbraco. We've not even had to do anything inside the web project. We've actually done it in a separate sister project or whatever we want to call it, and that is copying it over into there and to be used. Same works with like a NuGet package. If you install a NuGet package, it will add these files for you from the content of the NuGet package. So I think that is a good point to end this little part on, just because I wanted to just get it to be a point where we can do that. I think the next bit will be to get this Giphy search working, but if you're at this point with your property editor, you can play around now and test it out, try and see if you can put different things in here. Maybe you could have a look at how the other pickers work. So if you look in Umbraco views pre-value editors, maybe image picker, you could copy that in and see what that does. Maybe get it to use the same controller, things like that. Have a play with it, and then on the next one we will get the Giphy property editor actually working. but I think this has definitely been enough for this one video. So I'll see you on the next video. Hope you liked the video. Please, if you do, please click on like, subscribe to my channel and share the video with other people, and yeah, I'll see you on the next one. Thanks a lot. Bye.